Happy Thanksgiving, everyone! In honor of the holiday, I thought it would be fun to look at some roller coasters around the world and the ones that are themed to various holidays. In this video, we'll cover roller coasters themed to Thanksgiving, Christmas, 4th of July, and Halloween. For each holiday, I chose the top 3 best options. This top 3 was not based off of necessarily what the best rides are, but more so what reflects the holiday the best in the theming of the ride. Because of this, there are a lot of somewhat notable coasters left out of the list. You can make an argument for Halloween in particular that every creepy roller coaster is in some sense related to Halloween. When we get to Halloween, you'll see my thought process for the coasters I chose. Okay, so let's start with the holiday that is today, Thanksgiving. One coaster reflects this holiday in spectacular fashion, which we'll get to in a moment. But first, let's talk about the Voyage at Holiday World. This is one of the world's greatest roller coasters, as simple as that, and it's one of the world's longest wooden coasters. This ride features a wildly impressive 6,400 feet of track full of airtime. In 2013, Time magazine awarded the Voyage the title of the best wooden coaster in the country, and then multiple times in the Amusement Today's Golden Ticket Awards, it has been ranked among the top of the wooden coasters in the entire world. Admittedly, this coaster's theming isn't super strong. Generally speaking, Holiday World doesn't have the best theming, and we'll see that more as this video progresses, but it is located in the Thanksgiving section of the park. In a similar story to the Voyage, we have number 2, Thunderbird, also at Holiday World. This is another massive thrill ride, this time a B&M wing coaster, the first launch wing coaster in America before Rapterra at King's Dominion, which was announced to open next year. This coaster launches riders from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.5 seconds using an LSM launch. Now, like the Voyage, the theming on this coaster isn't super strong, but I do think it's a bit better between the station facade and some of the near misses during the ride. Both of these coasters don't hold a candle though to their much smaller neighbor, Good Gravy, also at Holiday World. This roller coaster is just a Vekoma family boomerang, but such a welcome addition for Holiday World, which desperately needed a family coaster. The ride opened this year and has enough theming to totally convince you of the Thanksgiving storyline. It's absolutely fantastic. Riders ride in gravy boats, and according to the park, it's the world's graviest roller coaster. And you know what? I gotta believe him. You are having Thanksgiving dinner at Grandma Gracie's house until you realize that the family has run out of gravy. Because of this phenomenon, you need to help her make more gravy, and so you board your giant gravy boat train and go on your 1,500-foot journey. Not only does the queue and station have good theming, but the ride course has multiple interactive props, whether you're going past it or even through a can at one point. In general, Holiday World hit this out of the park, and when you think of holiday-themed roller coasters, this should be the first to come to your mind. Moving on to Christmas, it's surprising how few coasters there are that are really themed to Christmas. Super Cyclone is located at Santa's Village, but really has no theming to speak of. Because of that factor, I very hesitantly include this carnival-style coaster. This ride did nothing to get here, it's only because of the park it's at. There are some coasters that are wintry but completely un-Christmassy, like the Matterhorn bobsleds at Disneyland or Expedition Everest at Animal Kingdom, that would honestly be probably a better pick for this. But alas, let's move on to Poogie Penguin Spin-Out Coaster, say that 5 times fast, at another Santa's Village, this one being in Jefferson, New Hampshire. This is an SBF spinning coaster, and it is pretty small, but it is absolutely adorable, and it's been operating since 2016. This is not the only coaster from that park that we'll see on this list. Number 1 for Christmas is Midnight Flyer, also at Santa's Village in New Hampshire. This is a new for 2024 Vekoma family coaster, and it looks to have been really well received from park guests, and that's great to see. This did replace another coaster called Ruta Coaster that would have made the list, but Midnight Flyer is still very much a Christmas-themed attraction. This coaster gives riders the feeling of flying with reindeer, just like Santa does to deliver his presents. The trains feature midnight blue cars with silver trim, and that is complemented by Northern Lights inspired green track. Overall, a nice family ride and the best Christmas themed coaster I could find. Since I live in America, let's move on now to 4th of July and talk about some patriotic coasters. There's some decent options here, and so at number 3 I have Great American Scream Machine at Six Flags Over Georgia. This classic coaster originally opened back in 1973. It's a PTC wooden coaster that features 3,400 feet of track, a top height of 105 feet, and a top speed of 57 miles an hour. This coaster has said to be rough over the years, but it seems to be running well now, and that's a great sign. Good job over Georgia for keeping your maintenance up on this classic. This coaster doesn't have tons of theming outside of its trains and color of the track and supports. The supports are white, the track is red, and the handrails alongside the track are blue. Then the trains are red, white, and blue. This is a very similar story to our second coaster, and that is American Eagle, located at Six Flags Great America. If you just glanced up and didn't really pay attention, you might think that these are the same ride practically. This is built by Intamin and was meant to duel, though it hasn't done that for a while, unfortunately. The future of this coaster is always up in the air, but it's an impressive ride for sure. 4,600 feet of track, a top height of 127 feet, and a top speed of 66 miles an hour. I hope it sticks around. And coming in at number 1 is Patriot at Worlds of Fun. This is not a wooden coaster, but its theming is pretty much to the same extent as the previous two coasters. The track and supports are nicely colored, with blue supports, red track with some white highlights on that track. Then, the trains are meant to resemble American flags. I think in general, this coaster from an off-ride standpoint is very well presented. There's also an argument to be made that it might be the best ride of the patriotic coasters that we're talking about here. It's a B&M invert that has 3,000 feet of track, a top height of 149 feet, and a top speed of 60 miles an hour with 4 inversions. In general, a good but not standout-ish B&M invert. From patriotic to creepy we go for the Halloween-themed coasters. Now, I didn't just pick the creepiest coasters in the world, I picked the coasters that I believe to best resemble Halloween. And so, that's where I get my 3 entries. Let's start with number 3, Raven at Holiday World. Of course, this ride is located in the Halloween section of the park, and interestingly, this ride premiered exactly 150 years after the poem The Raven was first published in 1845 by Edgar Allan Poe. I also found it interesting that, according to the park, the last sighting of ravens nesting in southern Indiana was in 1894, which was exactly 100 years before construction started on the Raven. Spooky. This coaster originally opened in 1995, and while other wooden coasters have since surpassed it, like the Voyage in its own park, this is still a pretty respectable ride with 2,800 feet of track, including a terrain-based layout in the woods. And even with the other exciting additions that Holiday World has had since, this is still a standout ride. One of those additions is the Legend, which opened in 2000. This is another Custom Coasters International wooden coaster, but it's a bit bigger and a bit longer. This ride features 4,000 feet of track and has a drop of 113 feet and a top speed of 59 miles an hour. It focuses more on speed and lateral moments. This ride is based around the legend of Sleepy Hollow, and on this roller coaster, riders race through the woods as if they're chased in terror by the Headless Horseman. It's a cool concept, though not terribly fleshed out during the ride itself. As you can see, between the 5 coasters we've talked about from Holiday World, the best of the bunch from a theming perspective is clearly Good Gravy. And to be honest, it's not even particularly close. Getting back to Halloween though, the number 1 Halloween coaster in my mind is Saw the Ride at Thorpe Park in the UK. This Gerstlauer coaster is of course based off the Saw movie franchise. Most of the ride is outdoors, but there are some indoor portions as well. During the ride, riders must dodge multiple physical props, including blades and chains. The actual quality of the ride might be taken into question. It's 15 years old, as it opened in 2009, featuring 2,300 feet of track and a height of 100 feet with 3 inversions. I've heard that this is a bit on the janky side, but I think from a theming standpoint, they did a pretty good job. And so, because of the fact that it's based off that franchise, I think it comes in as the number 1 Halloween coaster. But let me know what you think down in the comment section below for any of these holidays. What's your favorite holiday? And in the context of this video, do you agree with the coasters I brought up? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below, and let this Thanksgiving holiday be a reminder to be thankful always. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.